Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So we are going to be training at Bloc today in this episode, and we're going to start off with our couple sessions of bouldering as usual. And we had quite a lot of new boulders to try in this first session here at Bloc, since, like I was mentioning the last time we were climbing here, they set a whole lot at this place. They set 3 times a week, so every time I come to train here, after maybe mixing it up for a couple days and going to another gym, I've got like 3 new sections to try, which is always super nice. So here we are starting off on one of the new sections, which is kind of like a section of the wall where they try to set a bit more classic style. As you can see, this section of the wall is cool. It's got some kind of outdoorsy style moves and just some classic climbing movements, not too many big volumes or crazy features. It's a very enjoyable section of the wall to climb on as well, especially for those who are more psyched on outdoor style bouldering. And I find that the style of the boulders on this wall also usually suit me more, which is funny. Even though I am definitely more comp focused, I think a lot of my strengths still are based in more simple climbery style movements, if that makes sense. So I always find I do all right on this section of the wall. As you can see, we're trying kind of a hard boulder here, and it is pretty classic climbing style. We have just some hard moves on some bad holds, and I was feeling pretty decent in this morning session actually. It was kind of pretty solidly neutral, I would say. I would put it at a 7 out of 10. So I knew that I would be able to have a pretty decent time trying all of these new boulders. And this was one of the first sessions I found where my fingers and joints were not hurting as much after coming back off of rest week. As you can see, we're grabbing some pretty small crimps on this boulder. So yeah, it was nice that they weren't super crying anymore, my joints that is. Definitely still probably need a day or two to get them back to feeling like they're at maximum power levels, but they're at least not in pain right now. So now here we are moving on to this boulder, and this one was definitely one of the boulders I was most excited to get on today. Obviously it is pretty cool looking and it's got a big V grade on it, so that's always adds to the excitement to try boulder. And this one was set by Aiden Doyle, who's also on the Bloc team. And I ran into him right after I tried this boulder, and I successfully guessed that he was the setter of this boulder, which I was quite proud of. I can tell when it's his set of a boulder because I was saying to him that the movements are quite climbery, sort of like the last section of the wall we were just climbing on. And this one I could tell had some just almost outdoorsy style moves through the middle here, and we're just climbing on some hard holds. And I had a feeling that he set this boulder, and it turned out to be right, so that was fun. And yeah, this boulder revolves around this crux at the end here, which is this super cool superhero jump out to the finish hold. So this hold that I have in my right hand right now is quite garbage, and it is that line of flat hold screw-on jibs that are kind of like a dual text plate with a patch of texture right in the middle. So yeah, it's that super slopey line of flat hold jibs, and so it's really bad. And it took me a while to really learn how to grab this hold as well, because like I said, it has a ring of dual text on the outside, which is very hard to grab obviously. And so what I found myself having to do on this boulder was actually grab below the edge of the hold. So rather than grabbing the part of a hold where we normally do, which is like flush up against the wall, I was finding myself having to grab a little bit lower and try to make it so that I was just kind of grabbing the patch of texture and not actually using the full surface hold of the hold, which was quite interesting, so that my fingertips had more purchase on the texture part. But I decided to walk away from that boulder because I could tell I stopped making progress trying that finish hold, and I would maybe need to save it for another session. So I decided to move on to this boulder here. So this boulder is also going to feature today's tip of the day, and this one is pretty quick and simple, I think. And I've actually used this before a long time ago in a video. I think it was when we were climbing in Germany about a year ago. And this is a pretty fundamental one. Like, if we had to make a list of top 5 most sort of basic things that I constantly try to remind myself while I'm climbing, especially on comp style boulders, this is probably make the top 5. And it's simply to sink into your lats. This can be applied to like so many different movements, like jumping, just simple dead pointing. But it's also very important on slab when we're doing these sort of moves where we have to jump and stand up into a position where we have to balance, and it's really important to have enough force and momentum to like load this very bouncy position. So in this boulder, what we're going to notice is I'm going to have my first attempt on this boulder where I kind of give it a feeler burn just to like see what the move is all about. This move is like we jump and hit the left foot, the left hand, and then land our right foot all at the same time. And all of these parts need to sort of hit at a similar time to hold the position. And so on my first attempt, I don't get enough force to really get my hips in close to the wall and find that super key balance point. And it was just because it was kind of like a lackadaily, like a half-assed attempt. And so immediately I knew what I needed to do to help optimize on this move and get me the force and power I need to land this very bouncy position and get my body in the right spot. Basically, I need to create enough power and force to actually get myself there. And when I just sort of half-ass jump for it, I'm not going to have enough momentum to get myself into the very key balance point that I need to find in order to hold this position. And so immediately on my second attempt, I already start to emphasize really sinking into my lats and milking all of the position I can get with my lats and sinking as low as I can, so that I basically get more whiplash and like a whip crack out of my launch position to really get a whole lot more force and power to land in this position. Whereas if I was just to simply sort of try and jump with my arms a bit more bent, I don't have enough power in just my arms alone to really yank myself into the position that my body needs to be. So by sort of extending my arms all the way in my lats and sinking low, I give myself a whole lot more room to play with while I'm launching, and I sort of get more muscles involved and help my body generate more power and force into the position that I need to land in. So when you find yourself doing any sort of dynos, really any sort of jumping, and you really need to maximize your force and power, just make sure that you're not jumping out of this position and we're jumping out of this position, and all sinking as low as we can and get as many of our muscles firing for the launch of the dyno. And it can also be useful to train like your scapula a lot sort of during your off the wall workouts, and this can help you feel stronger to use this technique when we're doing dynos. So yeah, you can do like some scap raises or train your one arms, this sort of thing. Make sure you feel strong, sort of like extended out from a bent arm to like extending and sinking into your lats. I find that's a good position to train some strength and power in, so that you can use it when you find yourself in this situation and use this technique of sinking into your lats more effectively. So this boulder is like a really nice set by Chris, I think, and it's like a really comp style boulder. I was very excited to try this boulder and try and get some slab and coordination skills, like firing nicely, especially as we're leading into the first North American Cup. I want to be feeling good on these sorts of moves. So I knew this one was going to be a good one to practice on. And as you can see on all these attempts here, after the first one, where it was kind of half-assed, I'm really, you can see just how low I'm sinking into my shoulders and my lats and also my legs. And it's really giving me a lot more power than my first attempt did. And I'm getting into the position that I need to be pretty much every attempt. And all I need to do to stick the move is kind of just optimize maybe a little bit where my center of gravity is, where my feet land and whatnot. But I basically sort of figured out the way that I need to do this move, and then the last couple factors are a little bit down to luck. But this move is like super, super cool. I think it was well set as well. I had seen some other people trying this move and trying to break it, and they were unable to, so I think Chris did a good job at really forcing this stand-up move into like a double foot stab and like a thunder cling. Very, very nice, cool move that was well executed in the set. And so here I finally stick it, and I'm making my way through the ending. And even on this volume at the end here, while I'm smearing, I was like really, like I was talking about this in the last episode, I am like already can tell that these Tomoe Narasaki Pros unparalleled shoes are really good for volume smearing, especially for just dead-on smearing. And while that last volume was pretty decent to stand on, I felt like I just had that little extra bit of stability, which was really nice. And I'm excited to continue testing these shoes out more as we go along, because I've been really liking them and they have been growing on me. So now here we are coming back to this boulder kind of for a little bit. Usually when I start trying slab in a session, it means my power levels are kind of depleted, and I'm probably gonna stick to just vert boulders and slab for the remainder of that session. But I felt like I'd actually, since I was yanking off of the start holds on that slab like over and over again, it was kind of keeping my fingers warm and also giving them a nice break from all of these crimps on this boulder. And so I felt like I actually had some energy to still put a couple more tries on this boulder. And after resting from it for a little bit and then coming back, you see I found a little bit more success, and I actually got a bit closer to sending that boulder and like kind of touched the finish hold from the start. So I knew that it was definitely possible. And so now here we are for the second session, and I was hoping to feel better than the morning session and hopefully have a better chance at sending this boulder, and it proved to be the case indeed. I was feeling definitely better than the morning session. If the morning session was a 7 out of 10, we can call this session a 7.5 or an 8. Actually, what was weird about this session was I'd say I started at an 8. Like while I'm sending this boulder here, which I was very psyched to do, by the way, I was at like an 8. I was feeling like super strong, a lot better than the morning. This second last hold here felt much better in my hand than it did in the morning, and I was able to pull just enough off of it to get the finish. But I had this weird, weird case of power depletion very fast in the session, and I don't like this doesn't happen to me a whole lot, and it was kind of just out of nowhere. I found like that 8 lasted for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden I got kind of like powered out, a little bit almost sleepy too, and just tired. And you know, your body's energy levels will kind of just fluctuate through the week, and your body has a mind of its own, and you can't really account for these factors. And sometimes your body just might get powered out randomly out of nowhere, and that's just how it goes. And so I found that I tried some other boulders in the remainder of the session, like this red one, where I was actually performing a bit worse on them in the past, whereas those sessions where I was performing better on them, I wasn't actually feeling as good as I started off in this session. So it's very strange. I started off this session feeling like really strong, and then it just kind of like disappeared, and I powered out really fast for no reason. So I was just going to try and make the most of the rest of the session, and I definitely wanted to get back on this purple boulder here that we tried a few episodes ago at this point. And I was also very interested to try this boulder to really further test these shoes smearing capabilities, as this theme of this boulder is actually has a lot to do with smearing. As you can tell by these purple volumes at the end and this black volume here at the start. So I could tell that the ending felt a bit beyond me in this session. I didn't have the super strong pinch power to make my way through that last trucks. So I thought that I would just practice the beginning and also really test out these unparalleled shoes smearing capabilities even more. And what I was really noticing was that they are good for smearing. Like this boulder was like further confirming that. I felt much stronger in the smear at the beginning here than I did when I was trying this boulder with the Instincts. And so that was super exciting and nice. But the hard part about this beginning actually is this start hold. So this is like 2 thumb spikes that I'm pressing against, but they're actually like really sharp and shallow because they're like jammed right up against the wall, where actually holding this hold is very difficult. And it's not actually the smear that makes this beginning super, super hard. It's that the thumb or cling position is really difficult to use because the hold is bad. But it feels super, super possible, just like really hard. And that boulder, like to send that whole boulder is gonna be crazy. I don't actually know if I could do that. There's so many hard and low percentage moves put together that I think it makes that boulder really, really hard. And I think that this session that we're having here is gonna end up being our last session of climbing at Rose Block for a little bit, because my next session of bouldering, I'll probably do at a different gym, and then we're flying off to Salt Lake to start preparing for the North American Cup. I'm going there about a week before the event begins to get on the time zone and adjust to a slight increase in elevation. So I'll be training there for like about a week and a bit, I think. And I'll also just quickly mention, as you can see, we are missing a whole day's worth of training in this episode. So the next day after these 2 sessions, I went to Rose Block again to have another session of bouldering, as was scheduled on the program. And I started warming up, and I had just started my projecting, and I decided to just stop my session. And there were like a bunch of reasons for this. One, I've got like a split on my middle finger that I've been fighting for like a couple months now. And in the previous day of training, it finally like got the better of me and split like wide open. And it's a super, super deep one on my middle finger. It's the kind of split that feels like a finger injury when you actually crimp or hold a hold, and you can feel it ripping open when your finger's bending. It's the kind of split that is just invades your happiness and just makes climbing suck so bad. And so that made it extra hard to want to train today. And that definitely contributed to me just ditching the session. And I also just was kind of having a low energy day, a low psych day. And I talk about this a lot in previous episodes, but I'm all for just like allowing yourself to not train on any given day and just ditch the program, ditch the gym, just say, I don't want to climb today. I want to just go home and do nothing. And I think this is a very important thing to allow yourself to do, and allow yourself to sort of feel like you have control of just kind of like your life, right? And it helps prevent burnout. And as soon as I started adopting this idea, I found it helped create a more sustainable mindset towards training and climbing in general. Back when I was more strict and I didn't allow myself to just ditch training, that's when I would really like sort of develop a more toxic relationship with training and competing. And so yeah, it was very nice to just say, you know what, I got this painful ass split that I don't want to deal with today. I'm low energy because I'm trying to like also decrease the amount of my caffeine intake on a weekly basis, because it's been kind of getting way too high. And so that's also contributing to my low energy sessions I've been having recently. So all these factors combined just made for a day where I was like, you know what, I don't want to go to the gym, I want to go home. And I allowed myself to do that. And yeah, this has like been super helpful for me in the long run while I've been adopting this idea. And I'm all for like, yeah, just ditching training when you don't want to do it. So what ends up happening is I kind of had like 2 rest days now. And then we'll probably go and do a couple sessions of training. I think we'll do at the Crux because they just had a competition and they have some comp boulders up. And that's also when our training is going to switch up a bit. I'll probably do like a little program breakdown in the next episode to just show the sort of changes in the program as we're leading like right up into the comps. And part of the changes is going to be that we're going to do like a couple 5-on 5-off, like comp simulation training. And so obviously a gym with actual comp boulders is a good place to do that. So we'll go probably have a couple sessions at La Crux, and then at that point we're gonna, right after the La Crux sessions, we're gonna fly to Salt Lake and train there for about a week and a half before the first competition. So yeah, that's the plan. Next episode, you can look forward to some 5-on 5-off training at La Crux. Insert catchy video outro here.